Hey, hello everyone and welcome in a new video. In this video we will discover labels and annotations. So this is really important inside the Kubernetes. You will use it, for example, to manage your pods or your deployment, but also you will use it to set some element about the ingress or stuff like that. So this is really interesting to know how it works and why to use it. For example, inside some controllers, you can use annotations, and you often use annotation to handle some behaviors to your Kubernetes cluster, and of course with that you improve your Kubernetes cluster with some add-on. So let's go. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to not miss the next video. Like and comment this one to support me. Just a little reminder to Kubernetes, so to YAML, because in YAML, really important things is that you need to use, for example, double quote to be sure. For example, if you have some versions like this one, for example, v1.1.10, for example, if you don't push it inside a string with the double quote, you will probably have this behavior. So at the end, in the deployment inside your Kubernetes cluster, you will have the v1.1.1 and not the .10 at the end. So take care about that for labels, for annotation, but also, and to be sure, inside the tag, the image tag. So this is really important. So we can close the parentheses and let's go. So labels and annotations, this is the same things, not also in the behavior or to set it, it's exactly the same things. This is a metadata, and you can handle that with kubectl labels or kubectl annotations, and exactly with the same command line. But at the end, this is not exactly the same things. You can set it for pods, for services, for deployments, etc. But at the end, the labels is just used to organize or to manage your object. For example, if you want to group your pods or your deployments or your services or many kind of objects, if you deploy, for example, an app 1, you want to just to ensure to list all objects attached to the app 1 application, and you want to list all objects about that. So to do that, you can use labels. So when you push the deployment, you can add the label app1. If you if you deploy also a service, you can add the label app1 and deployment and ingress, etc. For annotations, this is a little bit different. Usually, it's used to calculate something inside the Kubernetes cluster, so that increase your Kubernetes cluster with another capabilities. For example, you can use it, and you will use it when you deploy what we named controllers. So this is in the computation side inside your Kubernetes cluster, and this is really useful to change the behavior of your Kubernetes cluster, or to detect a kind of object with a specific configuration that we put inside the annotation, and we detect with a specific program. for example, in Golang, you can deploy a specific program inside your Kubernetes cluster, and with this application, you can list and watch each resource with specific annotation and change the behavior and change something directly inside your cluster. So this is an automatic things, of course. Some example, same things, yes, you can see here we have the metadata key, and inside the metadata key we can have either labels or an annotation. So we can have, of course, labels and annotations together, but you can set some element inside it. You can see here, for example, in labels we set the cost center, marketing or advertising or infrastructure, etc. And the billing mode, here monthly, but we can have daily or yearly, etc. For annotations, this is a little bit the same thing, updated by a specific team or released at a specific date. Some ideas if you want to have or to create some stuff, you can test it for environment. This is really useful to use labels for that. That never create an isolation stuff or segregation stuff for your network or security side, but it's useful to have it to list elements and to be sure that you have in your production only things that you think to deploy inside the production and development part also. The roles, if your application is in the front-end side or back-end side, etc. The team, the organization, this is the dev team, SRE team, monitoring team. You can specify the version also, and each of these kinds is specifically used by labels, and the verbosity if you want, and the location. Okay. That allows you labels specifically that allows you to select some element. For example, to select deployment, select services, group all logs specifically for all pods in one deployment, and that allows you to filter object with labels. And you can use it, and we will see that in a few videos. We will use that for pod affinity. You have in the Kubernetes documentation, you can search some element about labels or annotation, and you can see here we have some specific things that we can do or we can't do with the label name and the label's value. For example, you can use here the dash, the underscore, and the dot. You can not use more than 253 characters, etc. So you have some specification for labels here. You have some reserved key. For example, here you have the kubernetes.io / or case.io / prefixes are reserved for your Kubernetes core component. You can check this kind of reserved keys directly on this page. You can search in your favorite search engine. You can search Kubernetes labels annotation taints, and you will have all the list of reserved labels or annotation. You can use kubectl and dash. So the common argument to list all labels for each element, you can use dash show labels. We can have a look inside our cluster, so we can go inside our K0S stack again, and if we use kubectl get a node like that, of course no labels in the output, but if we use show labels like here, you can see here we have some details about the entire list of our labels for nodes object. You can see that also with kubectl describe. We want to describe node, and we can take our node name, and if we list that, we can see here the entire list about labels, and you can see also the annotations here. And you can see in labels we have some details specifically for node object. We have the architecture of our CPU, the operating system, Linux, the architecture again, and the host name. And you can see the host name here is a reserved key, the the OS2, and the control plane, if our server is a control plane or not, and some other elements inside it. We can deploy with kubectl create pods, pod or deployment demo -- image nginx like that. Kubectl, yes. And if we check, now we have a pod, of course, and we can list again our pod, and you can use the kubectl get pod. Now kubectl get pod -- show labels again, but specifically for pods. And you can see here we have some default labels. Generally, usually, if you deploy, if you push a deployment inside your Kubernetes cluster, you, by default, you will have the key app, and this key will be set to demo. So this is default behavior, and you can list also the kubectl get deploy, and also the kubectl deploy return the app equal demo labels for the deployment specifically. And we remember that we have the replica set, or RS, and we can use show labels too. And you can see here we have, of course, the label app equal demo. You can, for example, use all-l with -l and app equal demo like that, and we list all component, all object, all resources with the label app equal demo. If we check, we can use show labels at the end like that, and we can see that we have a label equal demo for all object. Okay, is there any other thing like that? No. Now you can use, yes, the uppercase L, for example, on pod like that, and yes, we can use app, the app key. And what we did, so we list all pods with the key app and the value in a specific column, and the content of the value just here, set to demo, for example, here. What we can do again? No, yes. How to use a filter. In our case, we can deploy another deployment. Where is yes, this one? We can set this one to not to demo, but to front, like that. Kubectl create deploy deployment front kubectl get pod, and if we want, we can use a filter with -l, and we can set the L with so we already did that, equal app equal to front to list only pod with the label app equal to front. Okay, so it works, and we can check it like that. Now, how to add a label, and this is exactly the same command line with annotations. So I won't do that with annotation, but we can do that for a label. You can add a label with kubectl. Kubectl label specifically. What we want to change, this is the deployment, and our deployment, for example, front, and we want to set the label env equal to prod, like that. And if we check again the show labels, we can where is it? Label where is it? Show label. Ah, yes, I set the deployment, not the pod. Yes, this is really interesting because I set a new label from for the deployment, but not for the pod. And remember that we need to change the template inside the deployment if we want to push a new label for our pod, or we can edit the pod directly, but it's not the best practice. But if we want to check what we did previously, we push a new label on deployment, so we can just use kubectl get deploy, and we can list show. We can just display the labels for all deployments, and of course we set the env prod on the front deployment. If you want, you can remove this one. So to do that, or you can edit this one. To edit this one, you can't edit it like that. For example, with dev, it doesn't work because env key already exists as a label. And to do that, you can see here that your CLI tell you to push -- override. So we can use it like that. And if we check again, of course, the key and the label env is set to dev. Okay. So how to remove a label now? It's really simple. You can use the same thing and push only like that the env with dash at the end, and you can see now we have unlabeled this font. And if we check again, no label env in this component. Okay, yes, and just a warning, but we already did the error. Take care about the specific change. For example, if you edit a deployment, so the label is specifically for the deployment, not the pod or pods inside it. And if you change some labels used by a deployment or used by a service to match labels with a label selector, you can change the behavior, and maybe a pod won't be managed by the deployment, the owner deployment of this pod. So take care about that if you want to change or edit something manually. Annotation, yes. So labels is not totally used for that, but annotation is really useful, because when you put some annotations, or some controller can use this kind of behavior. If you put an annotation on some pods, for example, you can have a controller inside your Kubernetes cluster, and you change the annotation of a pod, and that, of course, that can be pushed through the kube API server inside the etcd, and that can be watched by what we named a controller watch forever inside the kube API server any change about what he want to handle, and for example, a controller can check a specific annotation, and if this annotation change, the controller can say, yes, I need to change something, and change the configuration, or maybe create something, create a service or stuff like that, and edit the pod directly and push the change. And yes, some examples for annotations that allows you to restart some pod on config map change, configure some ingress controllers, add console tags if you use console, for example, and add some scrap config for Prometheus. And of course, like labels, you have some specification inside the Kubernetes documentation, so you can check that also. Some example here, this is an ingress, so we will see that in some videos, and we can find for this specific object some annotation dedicated to Nginx. We will see what is an Nginx ingress controller, and you can see here some configuration to activate the basic auth, for example. Exactly the same thing. If you want to use console inside your Kubernetes cluster, you can edit or push or declare or set some services directly with the annotation like that. And you can use also annotation to activate the scrap specifically for some application like that. You can activate the scrap config for Prometheus and edit dynamically and automatically the Prometheus configuration with just some annotation. Here, this is just 3 lines, but that edits the configuration of your Prometheus inside your Kubernetes cluster and reload the configuration automatically. Here, this is the path where we want to scrap and the port. And we can imagine many things to improve your Kubernetes cluster like that. You can, for example, push specific annotation for documentation or support, and you can develop your own tool with Golang or Python or other language to handle this annotation. And when these annotations will be discovered, you can change or edit something or change the behavior of your Kubernetes cluster. This is really, really interesting. Some other examples for your backups, maybe you can use a specific annotation like that, cleanup policy to clean backup each 30 days, and you can develop your own tool to discover this key and change the behavior of your tool to remove some file if this file is older than 30 days. And for deployment, you can improve your deployment like that, but also you need to edit the tool, to create or to develop a tool in Golang or Python or other language. That's it for today. In another video, you can see that we will discover config map and secrets. So this is really, really important. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to not miss this video or other videos. Like and comment this video to support me. See you in the next one. Bye bye.